live on the air. I'm Richard Saile.
This is wild.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Lounge Time. I am your host, Rich Saile, and today, no, it's not going to be an hour-long show today, because I want to watch college football today, as you guys do too, so I have to make sure today, this will be short, and it will be short because it's going to be picks. I have decided on my 12-team playoff bracket. I was going to try to get a bracket graphic, but had no luck on it. But I have my 12 teams. I have a few losses for some of the teams that I have that I think will be in. So I wanted to make sure that I got college football ready to go. It's set. My 12 teams are in. I have teams that just missed the cut. And then I have a couple game picks. I don't love betting stuff-wise this week because it's hard to judge the first week. So now, back in the old days, we had to guarantee it's the first year, and then I kind of started to do it more on my own. But I could do game picks, and then if I really start to find something, I add it here. But I want to let you guys know before we start today's episode, this is going to be quick, I promise. Lounge Time's going to take on a different scheduling this season. And no, I'm not leaving this home studio. It's not going to be that, okay? But I think that you guys want to see my reactions live after games. Well, not right after games, but the day after. So I'm thinking of doing Lounge Time, instead of it being once a week, 2 to 3 times a week. So you'll see me doing about 2 to 3 episodes a week. And I figured that you guys want to hear kind of my opinions fresh out of the weekend. Oh, what's Rich going to talk about this week? Yep. It'll be on college football. It'll be on NFL. If there's a good Monday night game, you'll see a small video pop out where I give my thoughts on the Monday night game. And then obviously if it gets into the playoffs, you guys will know how I think it shapes the playoff picture. That's down the road though. Okay. But Lounge Time, 2 to 3 episodes a week is my goal for this season. And we're going to make it happen. All right. But enough of me chattering away. I want to start off today with a bombshell trade that happened almost 48 hours ago. And it's funny because I had my guest right over here that's a Dallas Cowboy fan, and this happens 2 weeks after we did the first Lounge Time of the 2025 season. And that is Micah Parsons being traded from the Dallas Cowboys to the Green Bay Packers for 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark. First off, let me say this. The signs were pointing this way, okay? I am not surprised that Micah Parsons got traded before game 1. I had a feeling that Dallas was going to be strapped in the salary cap because you allocated a large amount of their money to Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. That was mistake number 1. Number 2, I said, previous episodes, you probably can go find them, all right? I said, you're going to have to pay Micah Parsons. When are you going to pay Micah Parsons? You waited too long to extend him. You waited too long for the long-term contract. And it really, really hurts you. Now, you have those 2 guys. And I think, honestly, forget the defense for a moment. How about this team right now? I mean, listen, I make fun of the Giants sometimes because, I got 2 friends of mine that are watching the show. I had, both of them on last season. I want to make sure we get it this year, too. But there's a thought now that the Dallas Cowboys might be worse than the New York Giants this season after this trade. Because after watching the Giants look pretty solid depth-wise, and I'm looking at their offseason, even back to last episode. I thought they were going to be last, assuming that Micah Parsons would settled, but I had a feeling even going into the 2 weeks episode that he was going to get traded. But now after seeing this and their defense, I looked at the roster the other day. It's DeRon Bland, Trayvon Diggs, who's been coming off an injury, I think, 2 years ago. And then Kenny Clark. And then who you got after that? Not much. But the Dallas Cowboys will be in the bottom 5 on defense. I can book that right now. But Jerry, you are not a great owner. Okay, now I got friends of mine. I've got family that's Cowboy fans. I've had guests on this show that are Cowboy fans. Jerry Jones, and I've said this last year, definitely. Jerry Jones is the NFC's version of Al Davis. Except he's so bad right now, if he's going to make it worse. Okay? And you got to think about this for a second. Jerry Jones traded Micah Parsons to a conference rival, the Green Bay Packers, a team that beat you in your last playoff appearance, and the most recent was a playoff embarrassment because you were a 2 seed and they were a 7 seed. So not only do you trade him to a conference rival, you trade him to a contender. Jerry, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this is this is the equivalent of doing business with your division rival. You never see this happen. But because that Jerry Jones, I guess, had to do it because the negotiations were so bad, he ended up doing a deal that I don't think he should have done. I guarantee that his goal was to get him to an AFC team, trade him out of the NFC. Or if it wasn't the NFC, it was going to be a bottom barrel team like the Saints. Okay, I'm not throwing shade, but just basically the Saints are going to be a bottom barrel team in the NFC. He didn't want to trade him to a contender. But now, think about this for a second. Dallas lost Luka Doncic earlier this season. And now you lose Micah Parsons. It's been a rough year for Dallas sports fans in a way. But you know what? I want to say this. You know, when my team was bad 2 to 3 years, and I would tell my cousins and my uncle how vocally frustrated I was with the former coach and slash GM and the previous regimes and stuff like that. I was not happy, okay, with some of the decisions, the roster-wise. My, oh my, have the tables have turned, because I'll tell you guys straight up, okay? I had my uncle call me after the Green Bay-Dallas playoff game when I was at a friend's house watching the game. And he was like, McCarthy got to go. I want Belichick. And I'm saying to myself, Jerry won't fire McCarthy this year. He won't do it. And Jerry won't get a coach like Belichick. Why? Because Jerry Jones needs to have the credit. And Dallas Cowboy fans are starting to slowly realize that you will never have a coach like Jimmy Johnson as long as Jerry Jones is the owner. Why? Because Jerry Jones needs to be the guy that takes the credit for when they win. He wants to be the main reason. That's why he got rid of Jimmy. Now, I didn't watch the documentary that just came out on Netflix. It's on my to-do list, okay? I want to watch it, but I'm telling you right now, the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, you need to go. But it won't happen. So, I'm telling you guys right now, Dallas Cowboy fans, you are stuck with Jerry Jones till the day he dies. Yep. You're stuck with him. And not only that, it's like you guys just now have a lot of problems now from a roster standpoint. I wouldn't be surprised if a fire sale happens midseason where you start looking at, okay, what could we get for CeeDee Lamb? What could we get for Trayvon Diggs? What could we get for DeRon Bland? What could we get? Now, again, the 2 first-round picks, they're going to be late first-rounders because Green Bay is going to be late first round. That Green Bay, we're going to get to them in a second, but Kenny Clark's a good player. Kenny Clark is a good player. The problem is you have no pass rushers now. And not only that, you may be good defending the run, but you are a shit show of an organization. This reminds me now of when Tom Landry's team was on the downswing after 83 when they lost to the Washington Redskins at the time in the NFC Championship game, and it went downhill from there. Playoff losses to the Rams, the Giants, the Eagles started to leap them in the division to a point where the Cowboys were so bad Jerry bought him. Well, now Jerry Jones, you're approaching what Tom Landry was going through pre when you bought the Dallas Cowboys. That's where you're heading, Jerry. So now the tables have turned where I feel optimistic about my team, and my cousin doesn't feel great right now. Both of my cousins, actually, that are Cowboy fans. We've had them on before. Great episode, by the way. Check it out if you like. My uncle, who I just had 2 weeks ago, he's not feeling good about it. So, welcome to what I was feeling 2-3 seasons ago. Now the tables turn. But the Cowboys now have become possibly one of the worst teams in the NFC, maybe the worst team. But here's the thing. Everybody's saying they might get Arch Manning. Why would Arch Manning want to leave Texas to go to the Cowboys? Why? With what Jerry Jones just did, you think he wants to deal with that? No. It's funny how they can do this right after they just do a deal like this and think, oh yeah, Arch Manning's going to take us to the Super Bowl. Who's taking on Dak Prescott's $60 million contract if you do that? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But there will be, I think, a fire sale in Dallas by about midseason. I can guarantee that if they start out, let's say, 1-7 or 2-6, which I remind you, that did happen back in 2010. I remember that because that was the year AT&T Stadium hosted the Super Bowl, and everybody had the Super Bowl home team curse up until Tampa did it in 2020 where they broke through, and then the Rams the year after. But the Dallas Cowboys, you are approaching the days before Jerry Jones bought the team, and maybe it's worse, but I'm telling you right now, you will never win another Super Bowl as long as Jerry Jones is the owner, because Jerry Jones needs to be the guy that takes the lion's share of the credit, and he'll always hire a puppet coach. So you're stuck with Brian Schottenheimer. He's definitely not a one-and-done coach. It won't happen. So, yep. I mean, like I said, it's not going to happen. So, to the Cowboys side of things, it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. I mean, this wasn't no Herschel Walker trade, okay? Let's go there. To the Packers now. To keep this brief, this is not, and again, I don't want this to be compared to like the previous years of the Packers' glory days when they would make a move like this, but, and I'm not comparing Micah Parsons to who I'm about to compare to, but this is kind of noticing a parallel and a trend what I'm about to say. This feels like a move where history could repeat itself, where Micah Parsons is basically the Reggie White, Charles Woodson of this Packers team. I'm not saying Micah Parsons is on the equivalent of a Charles Woodson or Reggie White by any means. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is this. Look at the 90s days when the Packers were trying to rebuild with Ron Wolf back at GM. Mike Holmgren came from San Francisco to be the head coach, right? What were the very first things they did? They traded for Brett Favre, and they got Reggie White in free agency. What were they? They were the cornerstones of that team, and then they built around them. They had Sterling Sharp to work with. They got guys like Antonio Freeman, okay? They got Andre Rison in free agency when they broke through and won in 96. Dorsey Levens was a very good running back. You had Leroy Butler, Gilbert Brown on defense, Santana Dotson, Sean Jones, right? Then you get Charles Woodson, I want to say about 13 years later from when you acquired Reggie White, because I think 93 or 12 years later, I'm sorry, because Charles Woodson came to Green Bay in 05, I want to guess. You had a young Aaron Rodgers grooming under Brett Favre for a couple years, so Aaron Rodgers didn't start right away, but everybody knew he was going to be their future, okay? You had good receivers, Donald Driver, Greg Jennings, okay? You had guys like Jermichael Finley that was a good tight end, right? You had defensive studs at the time, Aaron Campman. They draft Clay Matthews in 09. And then you got guys like Nick Collins, who was a very underrated safety before he got hurt with a neck injury. So AJ Hawk was there, okay? So I see some parallels to this. Now people are going to say, well, Jordan Love's not on the level of Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre by any means. No, but if you look at 2 years ago, he played really good towards the end. right? Matt LaFleur is not on the level of Mike McCarthy or Mike Holmgren yet. Well, 2 NFC Championship games with Aaron Rodgers says, he's pretty good. I mean, he made the second round with Jordan Love 2 years ago, and they lost in the last possession. So obviously Matt LaFleur does have a good idea of how to develop quarterbacks. I won't say he's on any of those coaches' levels, or like I said, with Parsons being on the level of a Reggie White or Charles Woodson. I'm not going to go there. Or Jordan Love being on the level of Rodgers and Favre. But I'm trying to point out parallels here. Look at Green Bay's roster. Young receivers. They got Josh Jacobs in free agency to help the running game, right? I think that's a better running back than the previous 2 times in the last decades of Packers running backs, right? When they won Super Bowls. Now you've got young receiver Matthew Golden, who was one of my favorite draft picks coming from Texas, right? You got young receivers in Jaden Reed, okay? You've got guys like Dontavian Wicks. You've got really young receivers. An offensive line that is going slowly getting better. Defensively, they still have Rashawn Gary. They still have Lucas Van Ness. You add Parsons in the mix. Devontae Wyatt is a stud in the middle as a defensive tackle. He's a stud, okay? They just got rid of Jair Alexander. Yes, Xavier McKinney did really good for them from the Giants, okay? So I'm not saying Green Bay is going to the Super Bowl, but you have to put them in the conversation of contending teams in the NFC. You have to put them with the Philadelphias. You have to put them with the Rams. You have to put them with teams like the Lions. You have to put them with teams that are really close too, that are one move away, like a Tampa Bay, like a San Francisco, if they can get something from their young guys and they believe in those young guys that they draft. Washington, right? You have to start putting them in that top elite tier of the NFC, because I think the NFC, any of the top 4 to 5 teams could have a shot to go to the Super Bowl. Any one of them, right? Green Bay's in that category. They're probably a little higher now with Parsons now coming in because of what history has mentioned and what it does for them. I think Green Bay now definitely has a chance to win the North, because I'm not high on the Lions losing both coordinators as mentioned 2 weeks ago, but you have to mention now that they are in the top of the cream of the top for the NFC. And I think that the Packers could be the favorite of the NFC now with this trade. But I won't put them as my choice to come out of the NFC, which that'll be next week's show. But you have to say this is a great deal for them to try to win out. They believe that they have the young roster to do it. And I think that when you look at Green Bay, they're saying, we have a team. They made the playoffs 2 years now with Jordan Love. They're looking to go year 3. They're looking to make a big splash. They don't really do these types of trades. But the old Green Bay way that they did, they don't do it unless it's a guy that's really good. They never make a big trade like this. This is the first time they're doing it. So they obviously see something. And I think that when I look at this roster, they're young. They are a very, very young team. And I think they're going to be a very, very good team this year. And it starts with their division rival week 1. But I'm going to save the picks for next week. But I wanted to give my thoughts on Parsons to the Packers because I never would have expected him to go to Green Bay. I really did not. I thought he was going to go to an AFC team. But I'm happy in a way because, you know what? It's not my misery to deal with. It's my cousins. It's my uncles to deal with. All right? But let's get into what everybody's waiting to hear now, finally. The college football playoff bracket. My 2025 college football playoff bracket. Now, a couple days ago, I started picking through the teams that I'm like, they're definitely going to get in. And then I was thinking to myself, teams that I think could get in, but what are the games that they're going to have to win, or could I see upset potential? Here's how I'm going to start this. I'm going to start with the teams that just missed the cut. All right? Now, one of them played last night, but I didn't think they were serious about making a big jump from making a playoff spot. Okay? And I thought, the team they played last night is also going to be a really good team, but not playoff contending team-wise. I think the Big 12, there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be beating up on each other because it's the wild Big 12. All right, you never know who's going to win that conference, right? Arizona State, they were projected second to dead last in the Big 12, and they ended up making a pretty good run where they gave Texas a tough game. And now the Big 12, while Arizona State's a favorite, but you got teams that you never know who can win out of it. I thought Colorado would be maybe a top 6 team in the Big 12 that could win some games and surprise people. But then I watched a little bit of the game with Georgia Tech, who I also think is going to be really good. And their run defense, again, they don't face a lot of the triple option that Georgia Tech does. But again, you got to feel like, hey, they're not a bad team. But Colorado's got to work on defending the run. They don't really play those triple option teams. But I have Colorado on the outside, but they're not winning. I think I had a crazy number, like a ceiling would be 10 games. But they are definitely going to be in that 6-7 win range. I think Dion could get them to a bowl game, but they're not in my just outside looking in. So the teams that just missed the cut, I have it written down. The first team I have is Nebraska. I think Nebraska has a favorable schedule. I think getting Michigan early, at home is going to help. USC, I think having them at home is going to be favorable. Okay? Dylan Raiola looked pretty good Thursday against Cincinnati in Arrowhead. I just think there's going to be 2 games where I say to myself, maybe 3, where it's Penn State, Iowa on the end, and I forgot who the other team was for a second, and I don't think it's Ohio State. I'm trying to remember. I don't think it's Oregon. I'm trying to remember who the second team was. But they have 2 games where I'm like, they could lose those games. And USC was a coin flip game. But I have Nebraska just missing the cut. All right, as my first team. The second team is Kansas State. I like this team from the Big 12. They could make some noise. I just think there's a couple teams that they might lose to where I'm going, I don't know if they make just the 12th spot. Only one team's coming out of the Big 12, in my opinion, because I think that's how it was last year. I think that's what it's going to be this year. I have SMU missing the cut. I think the ACC, there's a couple teams I could see making some wins and some waves, right? SMU's one. I don't think they're going to get enough into the playoff because I think the ACC, the top 4 is pretty good. And I think some of those teams on the bottom that are like a couple pieces away, they might sneak up on SMU. So I think SMU will just miss the cut. Now, the 2 that I was tossed up, I'm like, can I see it? Yes, I could see it. They got some games where I'm like, I don't know if they're going to win these types of games. And it's Arizona State and LSU. Now, LSU has the potential to get to the 12-team playoff out of the teams that just missed the cut. I just feel like that they got to go to Bama. They've got Clemson tonight. Florida's a tough game, but they have them at home. And then I had LSU in the SEC championship game because of the Clemson loss I have, and then them losing to Bama. But coincidentally, I have Bama meeting LSU in the championship game, but I just don't think LSU can beat Bama in the SEC champ game. But they have the potential to do it. I just don't think they can. And I don't like Brian Kelly's chances against beating good teams. And I think when he's got a team that, and again, LSU has the resources, they have the recruiting power, they have the talent to go do it. So I think they can potentially make a 12-team playoff. But they're going to have to win a game where they're going to have to win against Bama. They're going to have to win the SEC championship. They're going to have to win tonight if they're going to have a chance. If they can win 1 or 2 of those games I have them projected to lose, which are at Clemson tonight and at Bama, and then Bama in the SEC championship game. So they can win one of the Bama games that I have that they lose, being the SEC championship game, one of them. And if they can win tonight, then they look pretty good. But looking at all the other coin flip games, like I had them, Florida at home, I have them winning. But it's tough. Brian Kelly, this is a big year for him. So I think LSU is the team that just missed the cut that I think can most certainly do it. Arizona State's right there too. I just don't think they're going to have enough compared to my 12-team playoff. Now, let's get to the 12-team playoff. All right, I'm going to start with the buys first. So the buys, number 4, was previously number 1 this past year. They really like their quarterback, Dante Moore. I think their schedule is, dare I say, pretty favorable for them. Only really one tough game for them this year. A couple other tough home environments, but I think this team is so talented to be able to get by those teams. Number 4, I'm going with the Oregon Ducks. I think the Oregon Ducks will be the 4th seed in the playoff bracket, which will be the last bye. I think their only loss will be at Penn State later in September because I think that going to Penn State, I feel like Dan Lanning's group, the one issue with them that they struggle with is they're not physical on the line of scrimmage, and Penn State's more physical on the offensive line and the defensive line. Drew Aller, he's got receivers, Trevor Pena. They really invested in that wide receiver and the 2 backs. I think Penn State beats Oregon in Penn State. That's going to be Oregon's lone loss. I think that's going to put Oregon as the 4th seed. I think that game might be close. So I've got Oregon being my 4th seed. Number 3, winners of the SEC, and I do not like this team, the Alabama Crimson Tide. I just have questions about some of these other teams in the SEC, and I think some of these teams have tougher schedules. And I think the only loss Bama has, and there's going to be upsets that I have written down, and Bama's lone loss, you ready for this, is going to be at South Carolina. Because I think that's the one game that people think, well, Bama can beat them. They have the talent and all that. But Bama dealing with Lenora Sellers, Nick Harbor, Dylan Stewart. I think South Carolina gets Alabama. It's at South Carolina, okay? I think Alabama will beat LSU because they're home for LSU. Georgia, I think they can beat Georgia, but I could see that going either way. But I just have serious questions with Georgia's quarterback situation. I think Georgia lost a lot in the draft. Kirby Smart can definitely recruit, yes, but I have serious questions about Gunnar Stockton taking a leap now, becoming a full-time starter, and with what they lost. And I'm saying to myself, can Georgia be creative offensively to be in this era of college football? And I'm saying to myself, I don't like those chances. And Kirby against Alabama, he's only got the one win, which was in the national championship game going on 4 years now. So I'm going to go with Alabama as my 3 seed, winners of the SEC. They're my 3rd seed. Number 2, I'm going with Penn State to win the Big Ten title. I think they finally get over Ohio State in the Big Ten champ game, not in the horseshoe, okay? James Franklin will win the Big Ten. I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to learn from that game. I know his record in big games doesn't say well. I get it. But I think this roster is good enough to win the Big Ten, and I think they will get one of the top 4 byes. I like Penn State to win the Big Ten this year. I think Ohio State having to lose to Texas, and I think them losing in the Big Ten champ game is a scenario I could see happening. All right? And I got Penn State, who, to my judgment, will lose in Ohio State. They get Oregon at home. I think they got a pretty nice schedule for their favor, and I'm going to say Penn State will win the Big Ten, get the 2nd seed. Number 1, this is going to be a shocker to some people, but I really think they got the best schedule. They have a top roster, and they have one of the best coaches. Clemson Tigers will be the number 1 seed in the college football playoff, in my opinion. Dabo Swinney, he's won 2 national championships. He's got 3 of the top 10 players, debatably, with Peter Woods at defensive tackle, TJ Parker, a premier pass rusher, and Cade Klubnik, who's potentially a Heisman frontrunner to win the Heisman Trophy. And then they have a pretty damn good team. I mean, I was impressed with how they were able to stay in it with Texas, and that might be a preview to something, okay? I think they got a really good schedule, but I do think there is one surprise loss that I think they will lose. I don't think they're going undefeated. I think their one loss is going to be at Louisville, because I think they're going to lose a game that people don't expect them to lose. And college football, you got to find those games. And I think Louisville is the team that I think could beat Clemson. So give me Clemson to go to the 1 seed, and they're going to be ACC champs, but they're going to lose at Louisville in the regular season and be their lone loss. They will be the number 1 seed. Now, for the 8 at-large bids, I'm going to go by the matchups, okay? So I'm going to go by the matchups first. So my matchups are, and I have this written down. Now, I made this Wednesday night into Thursday, and I know I saw one of these teams. They didn't look great, so this is a hint. But this is hard to pick, too. These non-Power 5 teams, this matchup is 2 of them. Number 5, Notre Dame against number 12, Boise State. Now, I know Boise State just got killed by South Florida the other night. I know. But Notre Dame, I think people are like, you have them so high? Yeah, I got them losing at Miami. But they got to go to no, they don't have to go to A&M. They are home for A&M. They have USC at home. They have NC State. They have Arkansas. Call me nuts. I don't know if I say Notre Dame's schedule is that tough. I agree the quarterback situation is a worry, but I think Marcus Freeman has a good team. And Jeremiah Love, this guy, he's not going to have an Ashton Genty type season, but he's going to put up numbers. I think this guy's going to have a phenomenal season. And Jeremiah Love, I trust with Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame gets the 5th seed, and I have them losing at Miami, and then I like their schedule the rest of the way. I just think, can their quarterback situation just manage the game and not mess it up? That's the only thing I'm worried about. But I think they can. Their defense up front really good. Their offensive line's going to get better, I think. So I like Notre Dame to get the 5th seed. Now, they will beat Boise. But again, I don't even think Boise might be the group of 5 team I think that wins it, because after losing to South Florida, I'm a little worried about that. And that's honestly hard to pick. But I had Boise because I was like, I could see them winning their conference. And then I'm looking around, I'm like, who else? Hard to pick. Hard to pick. I wouldn't be shocked if the 12 seed's not Boise, but I threw Boise State in there. Notre Dame gets by Boise. They will beat Oregon. I'm going to do the quarterfinals all in one. So Notre Dame Boise State is my 5-12 matchup. Notre Dame beats Boise. The 8-9 matchup I'm going to now. It's going to be 2 teams that have won national championships within the last 5 years. The Georgia Bulldogs will be traveling to the Horseshoe to take on Ohio State in my 8-9 matchup. Now, you're like, this is crazy, Rich. I mean, Georgia and a 9 seed, Ohio State an 8 seed? Yes. Yes. Ohio State was an 8 seed and they ended up winning it. I don't think it's that crazy. Ohio State's got Texas game 1. Georgia's got SEC games that I'm going. They could be coin flips. So I've got Ohio State beating Georgia because I think that Jeremiah Smith is the best player in college football, debatably. They have been national championships. I think home field's going to play a part in this. Georgia's not used to traveling up in the cold. I think it's going to be the reason Ohio State wins. Ryan Day, it's going to be just like that feel last year. Oh, Ohio State, lost to Penn State in the Big Ten champ game, losing to Texas week 1. But I think Georgia's got too many questions on offense that I'm not so sure of, and their defense losing a lot of guys. I know they can reload and all that, but I like Ohio State to win against Georgia at home and move on to the quarterfinal. Now, in my 6-11 matchup, I've got the Miami Hurricanes as my 6th seed. And people are like, what, Rich? Miami? Yeah. I'm not feeling good about this but I do think Miami loses to Clemson. I do think that. However, I think their schedule's pretty nice. Notre Dame is a coin flip, but I think they will beat Notre Dame game 1, but I think they will lose at Clemson. Okay? And I think that's going to be a reason why they're ranked 6th. I am also factoring what I think the committee might factor in. Okay? They will play the winners of the Big 12 in the Iowa State Cyclones as my 6-11 matchup. I think Miami beats Iowa State convincingly. I do. I think Carson Beck, I think they are going to be a team that I feel like they're a pretty good top to bottom roster wise. I think Miami can handle Iowa State, and I've got them moving on to the quarterfinal playing Alabama. So Miami getting by Iowa State. Although I think Iowa State's got a good young quarterback, Rocco Beck, but I don't know if they got enough guys to go upset Miami, and I don't see it happening. The 10-7 matchup now. This is going to be this year's Indiana team. It's not going to be the Indiana Hoosiers. It's going to be a team in the Big Ten, also starting with an I. The Illinois Fighting Illini will travel to Austin, Texas to take on the Texas Longhorns. Rich, Texas the 7 seed? Yes. Yes. The Texas Longhorns are going to lose 2 games, okay? I have them losing to the Swamp in the Swamp. I think that's going to be a loss. And I've got them losing, believe it or not. I'm trying to remember who the second loss was. I think it was to Georgia. Because, no, it wasn't to Georgia. Hold on. It was to an SEC. It was definitely an SEC team. But it's definitely, Florida was definitely one of them. And I'm trying to breeze through now to see who I think it's going to be. It's not A&M because I think they'll beat A&M. But I think Texas loses 2 games because I have serious questions about, is Arch Manning ready to take that next step? I think he is. I think the roster's really good. But I just feel like something tells me something is just off, right? And I think Sarkisian's a good coach. I just think against the big teams, he struggles. And I think that's a reason that I'm worried about them, right? Might have been Georgia. Actually. Now that I think about it. I think it might have been Georgia. I think I had Georgia and I had Florida they lost. Because I think they were both road games. Okay? And I think that that's going to be the reason that puts Texas in some trouble. I could go back and look at what I had, but I think Sark loses 2 games. I do think they get by Illinois, though, without a problem because they're home for Illinois. And I think that Arch Manning, they'll win a game. They're going to play in the quarterfinal. Let's get into those quarterfinal matchups. So in the 5-4, it's Notre Dame against Oregon. My 1-8, Ohio State against Clemson. My 6-3 is Miami against Alabama. And my 7-2, Texas against Penn State. Whew, this is loaded. Okay? Now, I'm going to start with the 5-4. Oregon's Achilles heel will come back and bite them again because I think Notre Dame is physical. I think they have the offensive line to do it. Can Oregon's defensive line win up front? Can Dante Moore do enough with those guys they have there? Evan Stewart, okay, Mekhi Hughes. Can they do enough offensively to just get by Notre Dame? It's possible, but I don't know if Oregon's front on both offensive and defensive line can do it. I have a little confidence more in Notre Dame just because they've done it recently, and I have questions with Dan Lanning in big games. Marcus Freeman did it last year. I'm going to take Notre Dame in a close one over Oregon to go in the semifinal. Now, I don't know bowl game matchups. It goes by, I don't even know if it goes by geography anymore. I mean, back in those days, I think it used to, but I don't know if they're going to do it this time around. So don't ask me the bowl games, where they're going to be. I don't know. But I got Notre Dame beating Oregon. In my 8-1, I have Clemson beating Ohio State and ending their run of being back-to-back national championships. It's not going to happen. Clemson is loaded, okay? Dabo, give them 2 weeks to prepare. I think they're going to be fine. I know it's a Big Ten team. Ohio State, yes, but new coordinators for Ohio State, I think that's going to be something that's not going to help them. I think Dabo, Tom Allen, one of the sneaky hires of the offseason for Clemson, kind of getting him from Penn State to Clemson, I think that's a sneaky good hire. And I think that Klubnik has progressed really well these last couple of years, and I think he's going to blossom this season, potentially win the Heisman Trophy. I like Klubnik against that defense, and I think Matt Patricia's an overrated defensive coordinator. So I'm going with the Clemson Tigers to beat Ohio State and play Notre Dame in the semifinals. To the other side of the bracket, Alabama handles Miami. I think that Kalen DeBoer, yeah, he's got pressure with Saban. I think they have the team top to bottom to go into their bowl game, and I think it's probably going to be either Sugar Bowl or Cotton Bowl, if I had to guess. Okay? Maybe Sugar Bowl because they might give Penn State and Texas the Cotton Bowl, even though it would feel like a Texas home game. But I'm going to say that Bama will beat Miami in the Sugar Bowl. Miami, Cristobal is going to get exposed. Carson Beck, I don't think is good against those top SEC teams. He's never been good in big games. I like Alabama to beat Miami convincingly to go to the semifinal. Penn State, Texas. This is tough because both coaches have not been good in big games. James Franklin, Steve Sarkisian. Both have quarterbacks that have high aspirations to be national championship contending teams. Either one of these teams I could see winning this game. But this is the one upset I have right now, and that's going to be Texas Longhorns beating Penn State Nittany Lions. I don't trust James Franklin. I don't. I think he has the roster. He has the team. Yes, Jim Knowles is there from Ohio State. Love the hire. I just don't know if they can win a big game. And I know people are going to say, well, you have them beating Ohio State in the Big Ten champ game. That should solve questions. Yeah, but Texas is physical on offensive and defensive line. And I think Drew Aller has Zach Wilson vibes to me. I don't know why. I watched him last year and I was like, he's got Zach Wilson vibes. Because when he plays really good teams, he doesn't do well. Now, people are going to say, well, Richie was young. He's played 2 years. Yeah, but Texas has got some dudes up front, man. And Colin Simmons, they're going to get after him. And I think that Yes, they got the running backs right, but if Texas keys on the run and lets Allard beat them, I think they play right in the hands. Anthony Hill's a really good linebacker. Give me Texas to beat Penn State. I think Sarkisian being a guy that's gotten his team to the semifinals, I think that's going to bode well for him. That's going to bode well for Arch Manning learning from what Quinn Ewers was. I think that's going to be the reason that Arch Manning will get Texas back to the semifinal, maybe get them over the hump in that round. Texas meets Alabama in the semifinal. To the semifinal matchups, Clemson, Notre Dame, Texas, Alabama. I'll make this quick. Dabo can get there again. I like Clemson. I think that Clemson has the edge on both sides of the ball. I think Clemson has more playmakers that I trust to get open. I think that Clemson will win against Notre Dame. And I think because Notre Dame's 0-2 against Clemson in the modern playoff era, I think that's also going to be a big reason for that. I'm going to say Clemson gets by Notre Dame to the national championship. Texas, Alabama. This is going to be a street fight. Both teams physical up front. I have more questions, though, with Alabama and Ty Simpson than I do with Texas and Arch Manning. I think that Alabama is stacked, but I think Sarkisian being in the semifinals, losing twice, Washington and Ohio State, I think that's going to bode well for Sark this time to get over that hurdle. Texas beats Alabama to the national championship. Clemson against Texas in a rematch of last year's first round playoff matchup. I know. But this time, Texas is not going to win. The Clemson Tigers are going to win the national championship. I think because they have two guys up front that are going to give Texas problems. Peter Woods, TJ Parker. They have a very good corner on the outside. I think that's going to help them with some questions that Texas's playmakers. And I also think Kate Klubnik has been growing and getting better. And I think Arch in the big game, I don't think it's going to bode well against that front. And I like Clemson to win the national championship for the 2025 college football season. That's my pick. Again, I'm okay to being different. All right, but I have a lot of confidence in this Clemson team. They made a lot of steps. And I think it's a year where anybody can win it. Why not be this year where I'm going to pick somebody different? So I've got Clemson meeting Texas in the national championship, and I've got Clemson winning. Now, if you ask me to give you a score, 27-20, Clemson over Texas. Now, I'm going to throw a couple game picks because I know you guys are like, Rich, get to the game picks. I want to watch college football. I don't blame you, okay? So, I'm going to start with a couple games today. Texas, Ohio State, starting in probably less than an hour. I'll make these quick. I like Texas to go into the horseshoe and win. I think that Julian Sain, first game for him, I don't like this for him, that he's got to play a tough front in Colin Simmons. And I think that Texas, learning how close they were to beating them last year, and Ohio State losing a lot of guys on defense. Will Howard's gone, Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles gone. Texas, hungry that they were close. Arch Manning, I think, gives them more where they can open up things. They're probably going to try to run the ball early. Their defense is still good. Texas wins in the horseshoe 27-17 over Ohio State. Tennessee at Syracuse. Both teams have some questions. Tennessee lost Nico Malavia to UCLA. Syracuse has been pretty good. But I don't know. I don't know if I trust Syracuse to win this matchup. I like the Vols. I know the Vols have some issues with losing James Pierce. And are they going to be a team that can take that step in the SEC? I'm going to say 30-16 Tennessee beats Syracuse. I think it's going to be close, but I think Tennessee's going to pull away late. So give me the Tennessee Volunteers to beat the Syracuse Orange 30-16 in week 1. Alabama, Florida State. I do not like any of these teams. So, but if I had to make a pick of who I trust more, I think Alabama is able to get by Florida State. I think Florida State, yeah, they're going to be motivated to play well after having a horrible 2-10 year. But Alabama has a really good roster. I think that's eventually going to wear down Florida State. And Ryan Williams, I don't know if they have an answer for him. And usually Ryan Williams, he's going to want to have a great opening game. Ty Simpson, they have much more confidence in him. And I think Alabama will beat Florida State 28-20 in Florida State. So, yeah, and I'm tired of Florida State fans driving me absolutely crazy that they should have made the playoff 2 years ago when, even if you went in with a third string, you still would have lost to Michigan. Face it, okay? Clemson LSU, the night game. This is one of the games I am excited for. I think this could potentially be a classic. Two guys in the front running for Heisman Trophy with Garrett Nussmeier and Cade Klubnik. I like Clemson because I don't like Brian Kelly's matchup in big games. He's lost his last 4. That's the talk. If LSU can win this, I think it significantly boosts their chance to make the 12-team playoff. LSU needs this game more than Clemson. If you were to ask me who needs the game more, I'd answer LSU, but that's not the question in this case. The question is who's going to win this game. Clemson, they're home. They have a lot of really good pieces. Yes, LSU spent $18 million in the transfer portal for their NIL, but I really love this Clemson team. Clemson will beat Brian Kelly, LSU 31-23 in Death Valley. In the claim of who's the real Death Valley, Clemson wins 31-23 over LSU. Tomorrow's action, South Carolina taking on Virginia Tech. I really tried to find out if I see upset potential in this. I don't know a lot about Virginia Tech a little bit. But South Carolina has 3 really good players. Nick Harbor, Lenora Sellers, Dylan Stewart. I want to take an upset. I just don't know if I can do it. So I'm going to take South Carolina. I wouldn't be surprised if this is maybe the highest scoring matchup of the week. I'm going to say South Carolina wins 30-24 over Virginia Tech. And that's going to be the start of something really fun for tomorrow's action. Miami, Notre Dame. I could see this going either way. But I think Notre Dame has some questions at quarterback I don't think help them going into this matchup. I understand Miami. Mario Cristobal sucks in big games. I factored that in. I know. I originally took Notre Dame initially. But then I thought, I don't know if Notre Dame's going to go undefeated. There's going to be one loss there. And I think it's this one. I have questions about the quarterback position. I think Miami's going to key on Jeremiah Love. I think Miami wins 23-17 over Notre Dame. I think Miami will win this game. I think Notre Dame's defense will keep them in it, but I think Miami is going to make enough plays where they just have that one drive that separates the game. Miami 23-17 over Notre Dame. North Carolina TCU, Bill Belichick's college football debut. It's crazy to think. Now, TCU is the favorite. 3.5-point favorites. You know I can't take college football without an upset, man. I can't do it. I got to take North Carolina to beat TCU. I got to. Bill Belichick, there's going to be a lot of hype. I feel like a lot of people. But you also got to know this. This is another trend, too. You ready for this? Remember 2 years ago, Deion Sanders went into TCU? And nobody thought Colorado would win that game. In his Colorado debut with Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders, that crazy transfer portal. What does Bill Belichick have this year? Crazy bunch of new transfers. I think 40 was the number, right? Bill Belichick getting all this time to prepare for Sonny Dykes' TCU, the air raid. That's going to be something where I think the parallels, the trends catch up, as my Uncle Al says, right? He looks for trends. Well, Uncle Al, I hope you're happy because I'm using some trends for this week. I'm taking North Carolina to beat TCU. Why not? There's got to be an upset somehow this week. I know Gio Lopez is young quarterback, but I think Bill Belichick with this team, it's going to happen again at TCU where they're going to lose to a team that has a big-name coach. His debut, it's in TCU. Give me North Carolina Tar Heels to win 24-20 over TCU. I think Bill Belichick starts the season off with a bang and wins in his first game in college football. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you guys hit that notification bell, that like button, that subscribe button, where you guys will get all the updated content for the 2025 season. You don't want to miss it. We will have more episodes during the week. I cannot wait to enjoy the season with you guys. You can also follow me on Rumble. Lounge Time is now on Rumble. Yes, we're expanding. I want to build a new fan base there. Let's bring the Rumble community in to the Lounge Time community. We want to grow and expand together. Follow us on Rumble as well as this channel as well. I don't want to waste your time anymore. Hope you guys enjoyed your time this episode. I hope you guys enjoy college football this weekend. It's back, baby. The season's only getting started, and we're going to grow as well. I will see you guys next week to break down college football week 1 and some NFL predictions. I'll see you guys next week. Enjoy your college football weekend, everybody.